Norwegian Wood by Murakami. 3. Naoko called me the following Saturday, and that Sunday we had a date. I suppose I can call it a date. I can't think of a better word for it. As before, we walked the streets, we stopped somewhere for coffee, walked some more, had dinner in the evening, and said goodbye. Again, she talked only in snatches, but this didn't seem to bother her, and I made no special effort to keep the conversation going. We talked about whatever came to mind, our daily routines, our colleges, each a little fragment that led nowhere. We said nothing at all about the past, and mainly we walked and walked and walked. Fortunately, Tokyo is such a big city, we could never have covered it all. We kept on walking like this almost every weekend. She would lead, and I would follow close behind. Naoko had a variety of hair slides and always wore them with her right ear exposed. I remember her most clearly this way from the back. She would toy with her hair slide whenever she felt embarrassed by something, and she was always dabbing at her mouth with her handkerchief. She did this whenever she had something to say. The more I observed these habits of hers, the more I came to like her. Naoko went to a girls' college to the rural western edge of Tokyo, a nice little place famous for its teaching of English. Nearby was a narrow irrigation canal with clean, clear water, and Naoko and I would often walk along its banks. Sometimes she would invite me up to her flat and cook for me. It never seemed to concern her that the two of us were in such close quarters together. The room was small and neat, and so lacking in frills that only the stockings drying in the corner by the window gave any hint that a girl lived there. She led a spare, simple life with hardly any friends. No one who had known her at school could have imagined her like this. Back then, she had dressed with real flair and surrounded herself with a million friends. When I saw her room, I realized that, like me, she had wanted to go away to college and begin a new life far from anyone she knew. "Know why I chose this place?" she said with a smile. "Because nobody from home was coming here. We were all supposed to go somewhere more chic. You know what I mean?" My relationship with Naoko was not without its progress, though. Little by little, she grew more accustomed to me, and I to her. When the summer holidays ended and new term started, Naoko began walking next to me as if it were the most natural thing in the world to do. She saw me as a friend now, I concluded, and walking side by side with such a beautiful girl was by no means painful for me. We kept walking all over Tokyo in the same meandering way, climbing hills, crossing rivers and railway lines, just walking and walking with no destination in mind. We forged straight ahead as if our walking were a religious ritual meant to heal our wounded spirits. If it rained, we used umbrellas, but in any case, we walked. Then came autumn, and the dormitory grounds were buried in Zelkova leaves. The fragrance of a new season arrived when I put my first pullover. Having worn out one pair of shoes, I bought some new suede ones. I can't seem to recall what we talked about then. Nothing special, I expect. We continued to avoid any mention of the past and rarely spoke about Kizuki. We could face each other over coffee cups in total silence. Naoko liked to hear me tell stories about Stormtrooper. Once he had a date with a fellow student, a girl in geography, of course, but came back in the early evening looking glum. "Tell me, Wawa Watanabe, what do you talk about with girls?" I don't remember how I answered him, but he had picked the wrong person to ask. In July, somebody in the dorm has taken down Stormtroopers' Amsterdam Canal scene and put up a photo of the Golden Gate Bridge instead. He told me he wanted to know if Stormtrooper could masturbate to the Golden Gate Bridge. He loved it, I reported later, which prompted someone else to put up a picture of an iceberg. Each time the photo changed in his absence, Stormtrooper became upset. Who the hell is doing this? He asked. I wonder, I said. But what's the difference? They're all nice pictures. You should be grateful. Yeah, I suppose so, but it's weird. My stories of Stormtrooper always made Naoko laugh. Not many things succeeded in doing that, so I talked about him often, though I was not exactly proud of myself for using him this way. He just happened to be the youngest son in a not too wealthy family who had grown up a little too serious for his own good. Making maps was the only small dream of his one small life. Who had the right to make fun of him for that? By then, however, Stormtrooper jokes had become an indispensable source of dormitory talk, and there was no way for me to undo what I had done. Besides, the sight of Naoko's smiling face had become my own special source of pleasure. I went on supplying everyone with new stories. Naoko asked me one time, just once, if I had a girl I liked. I told her about the one I had left behind in Kobe. She was nice, I said. I enjoyed sleeping with her, and I miss her every now and then. But finally, she didn't move me. I don't know. Sometimes I think I have got this hard kernel in my heart, and nothing much can get inside. I doubt if I can really love anybody. Have you ever been in love? Naoko asked. Never, I said. She didn't ask me more than that. When autumn ended and cold winds began tearing through the city, Naoko would often walk pressed against my arm. I could sense her breathing through the thick cloth of her duffel coat. She would entwine her arm with mine or cram her hand in my pocket, or when it was really cold, cling tightly to my arm, shivering. None of this had a special meaning. I just kept walking with my hands shoved in my pockets. Our rubber-soled shoes made hardly any noise on the pavement, except for the dry crackling when we trod on the broad withered skymose leaf. I felt sorry for Naoko whenever I heard that sound. My arm was not the one she needed, but the arm of someone else. My warmth was not what she needed, but the warmth of someone else. I felt almost guilty being me. As the winter deepened, the transparent clarity of Naoko's eyes seemed to increase. It was a clarity that had nowhere to go. Sometimes Naoko would lock her eyes onto mine for no apparent reason. She seemed to be searching for something, and this would give me a strange, lonely, helpless sort of feeling. I wondered if she was trying to convey something to me, something she could not put into words, something prior to words that she could not grasp within herself and which therefore had no hope of ever turning into words. Instead, she would fiddle with her hair slide, dab at the corners of her mouth with a handkerchief, or look into my eyes in that meaningless way. I wanted to hold her tight when she did these things, but I would hesitate and hold back. I was afraid I might hurt her, and so the two of us kept walking the streets of Tokyo, Naoko searching for words in space. The guys in the dorm would always tease me when I got a call from Naoko or went out on a Sunday morning. They assumed, naturally enough, that I had found a girlfriend. There was no way to explain the truth to them and no need to explain it, so I let them think what they wanted to. I had to face a barrage of stupid questions in the evening. What positions had we used? What was she like down there? What color underwear she had been wearing that day? I gave them the answers they wanted. So I went from 18 to 19. Each day, the sun would rise and set, the flag would be raised and lowered. Every Sunday, I would have a date with my dead friend's girl. I had no idea what I was doing or what I was going to do. For my courses, I would read Claudel and Racine and Einstein, but they meant almost nothing to me. I made no friends at the lectures and hardly knew anyone in the dorm. The others in the dorm thought I wanted to be a writer because I was always alone with the book, but I had no such ambition. There was nothing I wanted to be. I tried to talk about this feeling with Naoko. She, at least, would be able to understand what I was feeling with some degree of precision, I thought, but I could not find the words to express myself. Strange, I seemed to have caught her word searching sickness. On Saturday nights, I would sit by the phone in the lobby waiting for Naoko to call. Most of the others were out, so the lobby was usually deserted. I would stare at the grains of light suspended in that silent space, struggling to see into my own heart. What did I want, and what did others want from me? But I could never find the answers. Sometimes I would reach out and try to grasp the grains of light, but my fingers touched nothing. I read a lot, but not a lot of different books. I liked to read my favorites again and again. Back then, it was Truman Capote, John Updike, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Raymond Chandler, but I didn't see anyone else in my lectures or the dorm reading writers like that. They liked Kazumi Takahashi, Kenzaburo Oi, Yukio Mishima, or contemporary French novelist, which was another reason I didn't have much to say to anybody but kept to myself and my books. With my eyes closed, I would touch a familiar book and draw its fragrance deep inside me. This was enough to make me happy. At 18, my favorite book was John Updike's The Centaur, but after I had read it a number of times, it began to lose some of its initial luster and yielded first place to The Great Gatsby. Gatsby stayed in the first place for a long time after that. I would pull it off the shelf when the mood hit me and read a section at random. It never once disappointed me. There wasn't a boring page in the whole book. I wanted to tell people what a wonderful novel it was, but no one around me had read The Great Gatsby or was likely to. Urging others to read F. Scott Fitzgerald, although not a reactionary act, was not something one could do in 1968. When I did finally meet the one person in my world who had read Gatsby, he and I became friends because of it. His name was Nagasawa. He was 2 years older than me, and because he was doing legal studies at the prestigious Tokyo University, he was on the fast track to national leadership. We lived in the same dorm and knew each other only by sight until one day, when I was reading Gatsby in a sunny spot in the dining hall, he sat down next to me and asked what I was reading. When I told him, he asked if I was enjoying it. This is my third time, I said, and every time I find something new that I like even more than the last. This man says he had read The Great Gatsby 3 times. He said as if to himself, well, any friend of Gatsby is a friend of mine. And so we became friends. This happened in October. The better I got to know Nagasawa, the stranger he seemed. I had met a lot of weird people in my day, but none as strange as Nagasawa. He was a far more voracious reader than me, but he made it a rule never to touch a book by any author who had not been dead at least 30 years. That's the only kind of book I can trust, he said. It's not that I don't believe in contemporary literature, he added, but I don't want to waste valuable time reading any book that had not hit the baptism of time. Life is too short. What kind of authors do you like? I asked, speaking in respectful tone to this man 2 years my senior. Balzac, Dante, Joseph Conrad, Dickens, he answered without hesitation. Not exactly fashionable. That's why I read them. If you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking. That's the world of hicks and slobs. Real people would be ashamed of themselves doing that. Haven't you noticed, Watanabe? You and I are the only real ones in this storm. The other guys are crap. This took me off guard. How can you say that? Because it's true, I know, I can see it. It's like we have marks on our foreheads, and besides, we have both read The Great Gatsby. I did some quick calculating, but Fitzgerald's only been dead 28 years, I said. So what, 2 years? Fitzgerald's advanced. No one else in the dorm knew that Nagasawa was a secret reader of classic novels, nor would it have mattered if they had. Nagasawa was known for being smart. He breezed into Tokyo University. He had good marks. He would take the civil service exam, join the foreign ministry, and become a diplomat. He came from a wealthy family. His father owned a big hospital in Nagoya, and his brother had also graduated from Tokyo, gone on to medical school, and would one day inherit the hospital. Nagasawa always had plenty of money in his pocket, and he carried himself with real dignity. People treated him with respect, even the dorm head. When he asked someone to do something, the people would do it without protest. There was no choice in the matter. Nagasawa had a certain inborn quality that drew people to him and made them follow him. He knew how to stand at the head of the pack, to assess the situation, to give precise and tactful instructions that others would obey. Above his head hung an aura that revealed his powers like an angel's halo, the mere sight of which would inspire awe in people for their superior being. Which is why it shocked everyone that Nagasawa chose me, a person with no distinctive qualities, to be his special friend. People I hardly knew treated me with a certain respect because of it. But what they did not seem to realize was that the reason for my having been chosen was a simple one, namely that I treated Nagasawa with none of the adulation he received from other people. I had a definite interest in the strange, complex aspects of his nature, but none of those other things, his good marks, his aura, his looks, impressed me. This must have been something new for him. There were sides to Nagasawa's personality that conflicted in the extreme. Even I would be moved by his kindness at times, but he could just as well be malicious and cruel. He was both a spirit of amazing loftiness and an irredeemable man of gutter. He could charge forward, the optimistic leader, even at his heart withered in a swamp of loneliness. I saw these paradoxical qualities of his from the start, and I could never understand why they weren't just as obvious to everyone else. He lived in his own special hell. Still, I think I always managed to view him in the most favorable light. His greatest virtue was his honesty. Not only would he never lie, he would always acknowledge his shortcomings. He never tried to hide things that might embarrass him, and where I was concerned, he was unfailingly kind and supportive. Had he not been, my life in the dorm would have been far more unpleasant than it was. Still, I never once opened my heart to him, and in that sense, my relationship with Nagasawa stood in stark contrast to me and Kizuki. The first time I saw Nagasawa drunk and tormenting a girl, I promised myself never, under any circumstances, to open myself to him. There were several Nagasawa legends that circulated throughout the dorm. According to one, he supposedly once ate 3 slugs. Another gave him a huge penis and had him sleeping with more than 100 girls. The slug story was true. He told me so himself. 3 big mothers, he said, swallowed them whole. What the hell for? Well, it happened the first year I came to live here, he said. There was some shit between the first years and the third years. Started in April and finally came to a head in September. As first year representative, I went to work things out with the third years. Real right wing assholes. They had these wooden kendo swords, and working things out was probably the last thing they wanted to do. So I said, "All right, let's put an end to this. Do what you want to me, but leave the other guys alone." So they said, "Okay, let's see you swallow a couple of slugs." "Fine," I said. "Let's have them." The bastards went out and got 3 huge slugs, and I swallowed them. What was it like? What was it like? You have to swallow one for yourself. The way it slided down your throat and into your stomach, it's cold and it leaves this disgusting aftertaste. Yuck. I get chills just thinking about it. I wanted to puke, but I fought it. I mean, if I had puked them up, I would have had to swallow them all over again, so I kept them down, all 3 of them. Then what happened? I went back to my room and drank a bucket of salt water. What else could I do? Yeah, I guess so. But after that, nobody could say a thing to me, not even the third years. I'm the only guy in this place who can swallow 3 slugs. I bet you are. Finding out about his penis size was easy enough. I just went to the dorm's communal shower with him. He had a big one, all right, but 100 girls was probably an exaggeration. Maybe 75, he said. I can't remember them all, but I'm sure it's at least 70. When I told him I had slept with only one, he said, "Oh, we can fix that. Easy. Come with me next time. I'll get you one easy as that." I didn't believe him, but he turned out to be right. It was easy, almost too easy, with all the excitement of flat beer. We went to some kind of bar at Shibuya or Shinjuku. He had his favorites. Found a pair of girls. The world was full of pair of girls. Talked to them, drank, went to a hotel, and had sex with them. He was a great talker. Not that he had anything great to say, but girls would get carried away listening to him. They'd drink too much and end up sleeping with him. I guess they enjoyed being with somebody so nice and handsome and clever. And the most amazing thing was that just because I was with him, I seemed to become equally fascinating to them. Nagasawa would urge me to talk, and girls would respond to me with the same smiles of admiration they offered him. He worked his magic, a real talent he had that impressed me every time. Compared with Nagasawa, Kizuki's conversational gifts were child's play. This was a completely different level of accomplishment. As much as I found myself caught up in Nagasawa's power, though, I still missed Kizuki. I felt a new admiration for his sincerity. Whatever talents he had, he would share with Naoko and me alone, while Nagasawa was bent on disseminating his considerable gifts to all around him. Not that he was dying to sleep with the girls he found, it was just a game to him. I was not too crazy about sleeping with girls I didn't know. It was an easy way to take care of my sex drive, of course, and I did enjoy all the holding and touching. But I hated the morning after. I'd wake up and find this strange girl sleeping next to me, and the room would reek of alcohol, and the bed and the lightings, and the curtains had that special love hotel garnish, and my head would be in a hungover fog. Then the girl would wake up and start groping around for her knickers, and while she was putting on her stockings, she'd say something like, "I hope you used one last night. It's the worst day of the month for me." Then she'd sit in front of a mirror and start grumbling about her aching head or her uncooperative makeup while she redid her lipstick or attached her false eyelashes. I would have preferred not to spend the whole night with them, but you can't worry about a midnight curfew while you are seducing a woman, which runs counter to the laws of physics, anyways, so I'd go out with an overnight pass. This meant I had to stay put until morning and go back to the dorm, filled with self loathing and disillusionment, sunlight stabbing my eyes, mouth coated with sand, head belonging to someone else. When I had slept with 3 or 4 girls this way, I asked Nagasawa, "After you have done this 70 times, doesn't it begin to seem kind of pointless?" That proves you're a decent human being, he said. Congratulations. There is absolutely nothing to be gained from sleeping with one strange woman after another. It just tires you out and makes you disgusted with yourself. It's the same for me. So why the hell do you keep it up? Hard to say. Hey, you know that thing Dostoevsky wrote on gambling? It's like that. When you're surrounded by endless possibilities, one of the hardest things you can do is pass them up. See what I mean? Sort of. Look, the sun goes down, the girls come out and drink. They wander around looking for something. I can give them that thing. It's the easiest thing in the world, like drinking water from a tap. Before you know it, you have got them. It's what they expect. That's what I mean by possibility. It's all around you. How can you ignore it? You have a certain ability and the opportunity to use it. Can you keep your mouth shut and let it pass? I don't know. I've never been in this situation like this. I said with a smile. I can't imagine what it's like. Count your blessings, Nagasawa said. His womanizing was the reason Nagasawa lived in a dorm despite his affluent background. Worried that Nagasawa would do nothing else if allowed to live alone in Tokyo, his father has compelled him to live all 4 years at university in the dormitory. Not that it mattered much to Nagasawa. He was not going to let a few rules bother him. Whenever he felt like it, he would get an overnight permission and go girl hunting or spend the night at his girlfriend's flat. These permissions were not easy to get, but for him, they were like free passes, and for me too, as long as he did the asking. Nagasawa did have a steady girlfriend, one he had been going out with since his first year. Her name was Hatsumi, and she was the same age as Nagasawa. I had met her a few times and found her to be very nice. She didn't have the kind of looks that immediately attracted attention, and in fact, she was so ordinary that when I first met her, I had to wonder why Nagasawa couldn't do better. But anyone who talked to her took an immediate liking to her. Quiet, intelligent, funny, caring, she always dressed with immaculate good taste. I liked her a lot and knew that if I could have a girlfriend like Hatsumi, I wouldn't be sleeping around with a bunch of easy mugs. She liked me too and tried hard to fix me up with a first year in a club so we could double date, but I would make up excuses to keep from repeating past mistakes. Hatsumi went to the absolute top girls' college in country, and there was no way I was going to be able to talk to one of those super rich princesses. Hatsumi had a pretty good idea that Nagasawa was sleeping around, but she never complained to him. She was seriously in love, but she never made demands. I don't deserve a girl like Hatsumi, Nagasawa once said to me. I had to agree with him.